Thanks for having me here today, and it's my pleasure to speak with you today. um, my name is Lily Pottinger, and my husband and I are the owners of the Real Jerk Restaurant. We've been in business since 1984, and these speakers have been fabulous, and you have left me speechless. I've learned so much. And basically, I just want to speak from more of a personal, not necessarily a corporate point of view, but more of a personal point of view. I came to Canada in 1981, and I came here just a couple weeks before my 19th birthday. And then by the June of that year, I got married. So I was pretty lonely. And it was a different environment for me because I was growing up in a home in Jamaica with 5 sisters and 4 brothers. My father grew us with what do you call it, the iron fist. He did not spare the rod, and he said, guys, you'll have enough of you to be in the home. You cannot leave the gate without given permission. So he was very strict, and we grew close together, my brothers, my siblings, and I. And my love for cooking started when I was about 5 years old. I was the third child. I was the third child, so I'm very nurturing. So my mom, I would always climb up on the stool and dip into the big pot. My mom is a great cook, and hence I just love cooking, and I pursued that as I went to school. And when I met my husband, he's like, I always want to have my own business. So when he brought me to Canada, because he lived in Jamaica, he came back to Jamaica after he finished college. And I met him there, and he brought me to Canada. And he worked at General Motors, and he went to work one day, and he worked there for a few years. And he came home one day after he was off for a while because he was injured. And he said, I'm not going back to work. And I go, what are you talking about? You're not going back to work. We have a child. I'm pregnant. You got to go back to work. So make a long story short, he came home and he said, someone spelled the 4-letter word wrong. And I cannot live like this. We need to do something. So for about 4 weeks straight, he left home every morning and he went out. And then he came home one day and he goes, I got a restaurant. And I go, what restaurant? I just got my fabulous job as a cashier at a supermarket. We need to pay our mortgage. We have, kid and another kid coming. This is what we get to do. So as these speakers were speaking, I remember living when we just opened the restaurant, backing up before we were trying to live in the city before we bought a home. We couldn't get a place to rent because they didn't know who we are. And it was very hard for me because in Jamaica, your neighbors. My mom had 10 kids, but there were almost 10 other kids in the yard, and we grew up close like that. So the experience went from that. So basically, he came home and he said, I found a restaurant. And we went downtown. The next day, he said, please come and help me. If you don't want to do it, just come and help me. So we went. He went in the back. Next thing I know, he came out with a key. We went home to Milton where we lived. And the restaurant was in the East End. So we drove back so anyways, the following day, we went back. And we cleaned up the restaurant, put some blocks up. I had very little experience like running a restaurant. And so he said, we got to do this somehow. And we opened the restaurant the next day. So we got the key one day, cleaned up the next day, and opened the next day. And the rest is history. My father grew us up hard, as I said, and he always said hard work doesn't kill anybody. So for me personally, all I know is hard work. But my greatest accomplishment is my children. I have 3 children, 2 older boys and a girl. And I have helped them throughout the years, although, my educational level is a high school. But I've helped them in the schools. I've participated all through their school years. And that's what I'd like to encourage parents to do, is to participate in their kids' life, because it does make a difference. They have all grown up. 2 of them are married, have children, and so forth. And one of my greatest advocates is my mother-in-law. Now, this might surprise you because most mother-in-laws don't get along with, with their daughter-in-laws. But from the first day I met my mother-in-law, she said, you have to be the one. If my son doesn't marry you, he's not going to marry anybody else. So her name is Olive. And where I want to go with the story is that how do you define success? Because a lot of people look at me and say, okay, you're successful. But I don't think success is about what money you make, how much money you make, what clothes you wear, how much trips you've been on. It's about giving back. And I think as women, we need to give back on a daily basis. So in my restaurant, people often say, how do you get so much publicity? But what happened is we have had all kinds of people come into the restaurant over the years. I remember one guy who'd come in, and he rode his bicycle on Queen Street, and he'll come in and pick up his roti, only to find out that he was a heart surgeon at Sick Kids. And I can tell you stories after stories. There's even a young lady who was used to come to the restaurant from day one, and she was on welfare. She went to school, and she became a doctor. She's an oncologist right now at Sick Kids. So I have stories of families coming in with their children, and their children. So for us, it's a big family. So when things happen, people show up. And I'm really thankful for that. And I've often said we've had all kinds of things happen to us. I've gone bankrupt. I've lost real estate, major real estate, because we're black. So you can't get this or you can't get that. But the good old saying where you would pick yourself up off the ground, dust yourself off, take a deep breath, always works. But the most important thing for me is my faith. For me, I said faith, so spirit, mind, and body. We've been in business since 1984, and my faith has kept me. No matter what happens, every day, even at work, everybody says, Miss Lily, how do you do this? And I said, my faith. I pray, and I see things happen. So that's one. I always believe in keeping my mind focused on the positive, not on the negative. And the third thing is workout. I do work out. I can lift 50-pound boxes like nobody can. Okay? So, I can do a mile in 7 minutes. So every little thing that you do in life does add up. But the most important thing for me is not how much I have, what I've achieved, whatever, is giving back. And I think as women, most of all, I speak to women, gentlemen, but we have to be supportive of each other, and we have to be strong for each other. So that brings me to the point where my mother-in-law, who came to Canada in 1976, she worked as a hairdresser. She had a hairdressing shop on Vaughan Street. But things went rough, and that was actually 1981. When I came to Canada, she said, Canada has gone to the dogs. I gotta go. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Mom? I just came, I need to. She said, she was going crazy because a lot was happening in her life. So she moved back to Jamaica. And her life, she opened a hairdressing school, and she started working in the community. And this is where my point is about giving back. Several years ago, maybe about 12, 15 years ago, she said to me, we have to do good. Nobody has to see, nobody has to know. And we sponsored kids in Jamaica, lunch and bus fare. And we've find private people in our community here in Canada to support those kids. And right now, we have one young lady who has gotten a full scholarship to the University of the West Indies, studying medicine. We got her from she was grade 3, and we nurtured her and supported her. And when she got 9 exams, and she was like, Miss Olive, how are we gonna make it? And she said, don't worry, we're going to pray about it. We're going to trust everything's going to work out just fine. And she got the scholarship. But not only that, she got full boarding. So her living expenses are paid for, everything. And so far, she's doing fabulous. So I'd encourage each and every one of us to rise above, as Michelle Obama would say. When they go low, we go high. And it's easy to dwell on the negative, but we have to think of the positives. And I could stand here and tell you stories that are not nice. Even when we were put out of a restaurant on Queen Street, 1 month's notice. In the case of gentrification, I don't like that word, but it was orchestrated. I have all the proof, everything. And things happen, but I always say things happen for a reason. And when God is in control, with him all things are possible. So I just want to give thanks. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you this evening. And I just want to say, just do your best, no matter what you do. Put your best foot forward. And live by your actions, because I think your actions speak louder than words. So I was a very shy person. Although I grew up in a big family, I was the doer. Quiet, but I get things done. And now someone asked me the other day, they said, what's your greatest fear? And I said, you know what my greatest fear has always been? That I wouldn't live to see my kids grow up. And now my kids are grown. My son's 34 years old, one's 32, and my daughter's 25 years old. And now I have 2 granddaughters, which are the joy of my life. So I still work 6 or 7 days a week, but I do make time for them because I think I can pour into them the things that I've learned. Hence, they can impact the world as they grow up. And I so love your energy. I love to see young people thrive, and I applaud you. And I thank you all and encourage you to do your best. Thank you, and have a pleasant evening.